I think we can look at this in the same way we look at withdrawal from anything that gives people that instant satisfaction.
It's like mama ordering jumpsuits online.
Kind of.
Jumpsuit, jumpsuit, jumpsuit. Yes! Then dad comes and takes my screen away and I'm like, jumpsuit! One thing I noticed is the more screen time our kids have, that transition from screen time to not screen time, the longer they've been on, the worse that transition feels. They wild out a little bit, and it takes them a little bit longer to calm down. Is there something to that?
I think we can look at this in the same way we look at withdrawal from anything that gives people that instant satisfaction. You do something and then all of a sudden your brain says, that was awesome, do it again. Your brain says that in the form of a neurotransmitter called dopamine. And the neurotransmitter heads over to an area of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which helps with organizing tasks. Here's the issue. This part of the brain isn't really developed until kids are in their mid-20s. So think about what can happen when we're exciting this part of the brain in these very young children. Yes, they could probably experience a little bit of crankiness, fussiness in the form of screen time withdrawal.
Can you, literally be addicted to screens?
Kids can have withdrawal symptoms. You know, they get that dopamine, they get that rush, they love it. And young kids don't know how to emotionally regulate when you take a screen away from them. So they go ballistic, they start crying. A chemical addiction usually means that you need more and more of something to get the same level of enjoyment. And that's not really what happens with screens.
Is there a difference in how screen time affects kids? Is there a difference between, a FaceTime call, interactive call, or a video game?
Scientists do think, and I think anecdotally we can all agree, that not all screens are equal. And not all activities that are being done on screens are also equal. And so, for example, you mentioned video games. I love video games. I'll play Mario Kart with my high school friends all night if I could, but collaborative video games have done some incredible things for some kids in terms of their ability to form relationships or think creatively. You think about certain games that have taught children how to program or create, or it's incredible what some collaborative video games have done. That's obviously very different than a 1.5-year-old watching a lot of programmed television or a lot of cartoons. And so, the reason I stress this is because there's advertised programming for children under the age of 2. And we know that this does not work. And in fact, this can actually reduce a child's ability to kind of develop expressive speech.
Anything marketed to kids under 2 is just like a...
Honestly, I think it comes down to a child's ability to transfer what the child's seeing on the screen in this two-dimensional world to something in real life. There's no data to suggest that children under the age of 2 can effectively do this. Under the age of 2, what you were already doing is probably what's best. And that's interacting with your child and using your face to teach your child words. Because children learn by hearing and interacting and seeing your facial expressions, which is why when you talk to young babies, you're like, do you want to eat creamed corn? One study actually showed that with more time spent per week on screens in kids aged 24 to 36 months, there was a link with poorer performance on tests for behavioral, social, and cognitive development. So there absolutely is a consequence to leaving those young kids on screens for too long and not letting them interact with the world and the people around them. But also, the type of the stuff you consume on screens gets a little bit more complicated as you get older because social media.
I feel like social media also, in its worst iteration, really promotes unrealistic beauty standards, very biased beauty standards, or biased cultural norms and expectations, which is not good for a child who is developing their sense of self and really trying to understand their place in the world, right?
Yeah, but there is some research suggesting that increased use in teenagers can lead to things like anxiety, depression, obesity. And I think it's important to note that this isn't necessarily a dose-response relationship. So, researchers aren't saying hey, with every 1 hour of screen time, your teen is more likely to have this mental health disorder. But a screen is not an adequate substitute ever for the other things that your child or your teenager should be doing that are central to his, her, or their health. Things like going outside and playing, taking care of their mind, their body, their spirit, interacting with people.
Also, the way kids consume media now, like social media, I think must affect things like self-esteem.
Absolutely. I then worry about the risk-seeking behaviors that this encourages. Let me take the craziest selfie possible. Let me hang from a bridge and take a video. All of a sudden, your reward center went, whoa, you're a viral sensation. You better do it again. And you better do something crazier. This time you better be upside down off a bridge because you got to keep going viral.
You know what else is a viral sensation? COVID.
COVID's a viral sensation.
Not all viral sensations are good. Behind the screens.
Behind the screens, this 4-year-old.
Behind when we return.
Behind the screens, 4-year-old who watch too much cartoons.